2, 1.
Keep pushing. In this lap. You can do it. It's 4.7 seconds. 5.6 seconds. It's a one of a kind, only in the DTM. Yes, man, you did it. Thank you, guys. Go, 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 go. Yeah!
Hello and welcome to the Red Bull Ring here in Spielberg, Austria. The weather is bombastic and we're looking forward to the 5th race weekend. In fact, that marks halftime in the DTM. And in the past, in the last 2 years, in fact, this has been BMW territory. And one man who loves this track certainly is Marco Vittman, because last year he won here and that decided the championship for him. However, Marco, today you're only starting in P12. That's going to make the race really difficult for you.
Yeah, it will be a bit more difficult than in the past years. I have always good memories here, especially good race results. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Even we are just P12 in qualifying, we try our best, try to push, to have a good lap, good first lap, and then try to score some good points.
We're looking forward to a good race. Best of luck. Thank you very much. But before we go into the race, let's have a look at Zandvoort. Dave Richardson.
BMW strikes back in the DTM, and quite clearly. At Zandvoort, the brand from Munich outclasses the opposition from Audi and Mercedes-Benz. The second race results into a clean sweep of the top 5, while the first race ends with a historic success. At the finish, 7 BMW M4 lock out the first 7 places, something that never happened in the history of the DTM before.
I mean, it's really hard to describe this. It's really a fantastic result, but a fantastic result for the whole team. And I'm super proud of everybody involved. We started really not so good into the season and it was a tough time, but the team really was close together and everybody was really pushing and there was no finger pointing. There was just really hard teamwork.
At last, something to celebrate again. But the success shouldn't be overestimated. Due to the success ballast, BMW had a weight advantage of up to 30 kilograms against its opponents at Zandvoort. Champion Marco Vittman, winner of the first race, on the top step of the podium again for the first time since Nürburgring 2014.
The first 3 weekends were so difficult for us, and to be now finally back on the top spot, it's really great.
A premiere in the second race. For the first time in his career, Antonio Felix da Costa wins a DTM race. After starting from pole position, the Portuguese drives victory home.
Oh, I couldn't expect something this good, but you know, the mindset is always the same. You know, I jump in the car to do the best possible job, and today the car was good enough to win the race, so you know, I did it, and I'm super happy. My team, the job done with my engineers, with all the mechanics was great, and they kept me cool during the whole race, and I was just, yeah, taking care of the car, of the tires, and we brought it home, so I'm super happy.
On the other hand, disappointment for Audi and points leader Jamie Green. The Brit fails to score points in both races and thus remains pointless for the 3rd time in a row. His margin in the driver's standings is reduced to only 5 points. The youngest driver in the field, Pascal Wehrlein, is the best Mercedes-Benz driver with a 10th and a 6th place. Tied with Matthias Ekstrom, the 20-year-old is 2nd in the driver's standings, and thus they are Green's main rivals.
So hidden behind this helmet is Eduardo Mortara, and he's already in his suit because with a broken thumb, I guess it takes a little longer to get dressed. However, despite that, you did a fantastic job today in the free practice. You won here 2012, so it really seems to suit you here, and now you're pole setter. Do you have a good feeling you're going to snatch victory the first time this season?
Well, I don't know. I mean, for the moment, it's been a very, very good weekend so far. We've been top of the charts pretty much all the time that we were on track. And with the pole position, obviously, it's a very, very nice start of the race. And we are looking, to maintain, this position. It's going to be a tough fight with the others. But if I can manage a good start, I think I can have a good race, yeah.
All right, well, best of luck. Thank you very much, Edo. Don't want to hold you up, and back to you.
So, looking down on the grid, we get ready for the first race of the weekend here at the Red Bull Ring, and this is how they're going to line up. It's an all-Audi front of the grid, Eduardo Mortara and Jamie Green, the championship leader, ahead of Pascal Wehrlein and Paul de Resta, and all Mercedes second row. Row 3 is where you find Augusto Farfus for BMW, the best of the BMW pilots, and then Christian Vittoris for Mercedes starting 6th. 7th, Robert Wickens. 8th, fellow Mercedes driver Gary Paffett. 9th and 10th, Audis both, Matthias Ekstrom, Mike Rockenfeller, champions both. 11th on the grid, Adrian Tornbay, and then 12th is the reigning champion, Marco Vittman, with his BMW. 13th, winner last time out, number 13, Antonio Felix da Costa. Nico Müller for Audi, lines up 14th. 15th is another of the many champions, Bruno Spengler. 16th, another champ, Timo Scheider. 17th on the grid, Daniel Junqueira, and 18th is a man that's won here in the past, Martin Tomczyk. 19th is Maxime Martin for BMW. 20th, having stopped and causing a red flag in qualifying, Miguel Molina. 21st on the grid, a winner here in Formula 3, Tom Blomqvist. Maxi Goetz has won here in a GT car. 23rd, a long way back, is Timo Glock. And the local hero, Austrian Lucas Auer, completes the grid. Joint second in the championship, Matthias Ekstrom comes to Austria. Effectively a home race because he's a Red Bull back driver. It is the Red Bull Ring that we're at. And let's go back to the grid and hear what Mercedes think about the race ahead. Uli Fritz is with Verena.
Yep, he certainly is. Now, in the last few years, this was more like Audi and BMW territory. However, it's looking very good for Mercedes-Benz with 5 Mercedes in the top 10. Very, very strong performance. So are you optimistic about the race today?
Yeah, I think the biggest issue is to get a good start out of the grid, and then I think we can have a good race. But as I said, for a sprint race like today, without pit stops and without strategy, in the end you can only try to gain as many positions as you can on the start, and then try to put pressure on the guys in front and maybe overtake them.
Well, best of luck. Thank you very much, Ulrich Fritz, and back to you.
So, can Mercedes turn this around? Pascal Wehrlein is the best of the Mercedes drivers. He starts 3rd on the grid. Mike Rockenfeller has work to do from 10th. He was really committed in qualifying this afternoon. He was keen to get out after the red flag, but it never really hooked up for him. And so Mike Rockenfeller in the Schaeffler Audi with work to do from way down. 10th on the grid. But Jamie Green looking good at the front. Bear in mind, after the BMW success at Zandvoort, weights have changed a little bit. The lightest car on the grid is Martin Tomczyk's BMW on 1110 kilos, the heaviest. Well, there are 2, in fact, with the same heavy weight. Matthias Ekstrom is one of the 2 drivers indicated there. Pascal Wehrlein is the other. Audi and Mercedes, therefore, the brands. 1127.5 kilos, the heaviest cars on the grid weigh in at. Matthias Ekstrom and Pascal Wehrlein. The likes of Jamie Green, Gary Paffett and others, 1125. Didn't seem to be a handicap for Jamie to get 2nd on the grid. Gary Paffett, likewise, 8th fastest in qualifying this afternoon for Mercedes. Jamie Green, the championship leader. There is Gary Paffett getting ready. Another of the 8 champions in the DTM on the grid. It's not been a stellar season for Gary. He's had a couple of 3rd places, but keen to go even better if he can. But in this race, might have to be a bit elbows out. This 40-minute plus 1 lap sprint race about to get underway. They'll have the final warming up lap, and then they're going to be unleashed. Robert Wickens is the man that lines up 7th on the grid. Dramas in the pits here a year ago. But let's see what a man that's had a win at Norris Ring can do about the opposition as he gets ready. Clambers on board the car. Many years ago, Robert was part of the Red Bull Junior driver program in his single-seater days, but now very much part of the Mercedes family. Christian Vittoris, likewise, he lines up 6th on the grid. Christian, who has been a race winner in the past. Last season, he was victorious. He's had a pole position this year, but lining up 6th on the grid. His car weighing in at 1125 kilos, so it's on the heavier end of the scale. The Original Tyler Mercedes C63 DTM. And 5th on the grid is Augusto Farfus, who now carries 1115 kilos, BMW driver. He's the best place of the BMW drivers on the grid, one of many on this grid, in fact, who was in the Spa 24 hours a week ago. As we get ready then for race 1 of the weekend for the DTM. Local time, it has just gone 6:05 here in Austria. The grid is formed, the traditional Saturday evening race headed by broken thumb and all. Eduardo Mortara, his qualifying time just fractions quicker than that of Jamie Green to lock out an all-Audi front of the grid. But there are plenty of others with work to do lower down the order. Maxime Martin is one, Timo Glock is another. And of course, there's lots of support for Lucas Auer racing a DTM car here for the first time. What can the Austrian do from the back of the grid? There's Paul de Resta, fourth. He has qualified not a very happy time at Zandvoort, and he wants to try and put that behind him and score well here. He's aboard the Mercedes, ready to go. Paul, another of the excellent 8 previous champions that we've got on this grid, and the tyres being put onto the Mercedes. Let's hear from Audi. Dr. Wolfgang Ulrich is with Verena.
So the first row for Audi, that's fantastic. Looks like Audi is back on track. Are you especially pleased since this is your home race?
Yeah, there's no question. That's really nice that here in my home race we can have both cars in the first row. I think the guys showed really a perfect performance in qualifying, and I hope we can make a good result in the race out of that.
And let's hope it's not going to rain, right?
No, I think it will not gonna rain. I'm very optimistic. I trust that the weather is positive on that race.
All right, have a fantastic race. Thank you so much, and back to you.
The fear is, though, that it might be wet tomorrow, so this could be the only dry race of the 2 options that we have this weekend. Tomorrow's is the one with the pit stops. But for now, it is a dry road. Jamie Green lines up second, and Eduardo Mortara is the man on pole position. Both of those Audis weighing in at 11.25 kilos. The first corner is the Castrol Edge right-hander. It is a Castrol Edge car on pole position, and Eduardo Mortara wants to convert that pole position from the 1x1 staggered grid formation into the race lead, and then into a race win. So the grid is now being cleared. A very busy grid it is, of engineers, of grid girls, of VIPs, of the media. Dr. Wolfgang Ulrich then walks away from the grid. Busy weekend this for Audi, because there's also the brace of races in the Audi Sport TT Cup that were on track earlier on those cars. And as the grid is being cleared, all the heroes in the DTM ready for action. Looking further down on the grid, 1 or 2 that are perhaps a little bit out of sequence. Bruno Spengler struggled again, seemingly, in qualifying. The 20-minute qualifying format really does mean you've got to be on your toes. But coming into this race, Jamie Green has this very modest now 5-point advantage, and he knows that he's got to score in this race. Matthias Ekstrom and Pascal Wehrlein tied behind him. Then it's Eduardo Mortara, just 1 point ahead of Robert Wickens, just 5 ahead of Bruno Spengler. Marco Vittman, the reigning champion. Well, he had a win in Holland, but it's been a pretty barren season otherwise. But he's creeping back into the mix now, 7th in the standings. Jamie Green, championship leader for the Hoffman Group-backed Audi, entered by the Team Rosberg squad, and the Red Bull Ring looking absolutely magnificent. It is a beautifully manicured circuit. It's very popular with the drivers because of all the elevation changes. It is, of course, a circuit that has grown out of the old Österreich ring that ceased its Formula 1 involvement in the mid-80s. It reopened in the late 90s as the A1 ring, a rather unloved circuit, and then went into hibernation again. But since Dietrich Mateschitz of Red Bull has taken control of the circuit, more and more top-line racing comes here. There's an Austrian Grand Prix, of course. The DTM is a very popular addition, and it's a very busy place as well. The campsites are really busy. The stands have been pretty much packed around the first couple of corners all day. And in fact, yesterday, even for free practice, it was a very busy place as well. It has a real buzz to it this weekend, and especially in the good weather that we've been enjoying. It's got a bit cloudier now towards the end of the afternoon, but it's been a great day for the fans. They've had some good racing across the support classes, and a huge amount of support across the 3 manufacturers, and for a number of the drivers. This is relatively local, for example, to Maxi Goetz's base, and there's lots of support for him. Lots of support, of course, for Lucas Auer. Timo Scheider, German, but lives in Austria. And now, as the engines fire up, the cars are ready to be released. The circuit itself, 4.326 kilometres long. There are 9 corners to speak of, 2 of which go left and 7 of which go right. 31 gear changes in a lap, and when you use the DRS, the rear wing drops, that gives you a 5 km/h increase, and you can use it across 3 zones around this lap, and if you do it perfectly, that will gain you 0.4 of a second per lap. It may not sound a lot, but it all helps when it's so competitive, and in this championship you're talking about thousandths of a second. It's a modern circuit, the Red Bull Ring, in a very traditional environment, and modern meets classic in a very well orchestrated way. The Red Bull in the middle of the circuit there, master of all its surveys, looking down onto the track the real amphitheatre feel in the grandstands opposite the pits or around turn 1 into and out of the corner. You can see an awful lot of the circuit from there. It's great for the fans, and let's hope that it's going to deliver a really good race for the DTM, because the cars now are released. The green flag lap is underway as the 9th race of the season is set to get underway here at the Red Bull Ring. The noise hangs in the air as the cars blast away from the line. It hangs between the buildings on one side and the huge grandstands on the opposite side. It's a climb uphill towards the first corner, and then as they make their way out of the first right, uphill. This is the fastest part of the circuit now. Speed building all the time, up to 230 kilometers an hour on the run through the end of the first sector, and then it is hard on the brakes down to 60 kilometers an hour, down to second gear into the next right into turn 2. It's a place where you can overtake, but it's also a place that if you arrive with too much speed, it can really bite. Yes, there's the runoff area, but as you're sorting yourself out, others can nip by on the inside, and we've seen that across lots of races already this weekend. Then you're back on the power, more elevation change. Out of turn 2, you're turning and going uphill at the same time. Just as you finish turning, you drop over the brow, downhill, then it climbs up, then it drops down again, heading into turn 3, which is this long right-hander of Rauch that seems to go on forever, and you've got to be very, very gentle with where you apply the power. Too soon, and you'll get dragged off to the left-hand side and into the dirt and then into the gravel. Keep plunging downhill. Pirelli is turn 4. The next left-hander, and then down towards Verth, which is another left at the bottom of the hill. But then there's a quick flick right, and then the sprint towards the last 2 right-handers, Rindt and the Red Bull mobile curve, that bring them round towards the start and finish line. A flying lap, just under 1 minute and 25 seconds, and there are 40 minutes plus 1 lap at the end in prospect. You've seen the way the grid lines up. Good spread across the 3 manufacturers. The block result that people were fearing about with the weights doesn't really look to be that much of an issue. It goes Audi, Audi, Mercedes, Mercedes, BMW, Mercedes, 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 Audi, Audi across the top 10. Mike Rockenfeller, the record holder here from 2 years ago, and he is the man that rounds out that top 10 on the grid. Those lines across the road are the sectors that will be referred to during the course of the race as the cars now work their way up towards the grid. And we get ready for the first of 2 races, the shorter of the 2 races here at the Red Bull Ring. David Addison trackside. Verena Vries you've heard from down on the grid, and she'll be talking to drivers no doubt during the course of the race.
5, forward 2, forward, 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 stop, head off, good luck, go and do it.
Eduardo Mortara told where to park precisely, then he's not in advance of his grid line and incur a penalty for being out of position. And as the field accelerates up into place, a last chance to get a bit of warmth into the tyres, the grid is set. That is the expression in the Audi garage. Jens Marquardt in the garage for BMW. And so everybody now is just about ready to go. Race 9 of the championship season. It's the first of 2 here in Austria. The lights go red. When 5 lights go out, we are racing now. Who makes the best start? A good getaway by Jamie Green, but can he outdrag Mortara? Yes, he can on the run uphill. A really good start by the championship leader in the orange Audi. Jamie Green grabs the advantage as they work their way around turn 1. Do they all get through safely? Looked like Ekstrom may have been forced out wide. So too Maxime Martin and Timo Glock at the back, really wide in the yellow BMW. But the cars now accelerate uphill. Speed building up to 230 Ks and then stand on the brakes down to second gear for turn 2. Jamie Green goes deep into the corner, but he comes out ahead. Going with him, Eduardo Mortara, and very wide indeed in the BMW. They're back onto the road, Bruno Spengler, as the cars plunge downhill for the first time. It's an Audi 1-2 with Pascal Wehrlein, the best of the rest, in 3rd place. He in turn has got Paul de Resta behind him. Then it's Vittorius and looks side by side for 6th. Farfus up on the inside of Robert Wickens. Very, very close indeed as Danny Juncadella gets forced out wide. Up the inside of him has gone Mike Rockenfeller. And they work their way downhill. Bruno Spengler then having to work really hard. He's got a whole queue of cars behind him. But Jamie Green now, having hit the front, is getting away on this, the first lap of the 40 minutes of racing. Downhill for the first time. A challenge made by Tom Blomqvist up the inside of Lucas Auer. And Lucas has already gained 1, 2, now 3 places on board with Paffett. Ahead is Robert Wickens. Through Rindt and down towards Red Bull mobile curve for the first time comes the race leader, Jamie Green. He didn't really have a great time of it at the Norris Ring, nor, indeed, did he have a good time at Zandvoort. And so across the line, he's got to score points here, and he's in the box seat, 6/10 up at the end of lap 1. Second over the timing line, it's Mortara. In third place, it is Wehrlein as they work their way through out of turn 1. And Mortara, using the DRS, goes through, grabs the race lead. Is that DRS or is that a problem? It can't be DRS, it's not yet enabled, so it's a problem for Jamie Green because from 6/10 up, he's been absolutely swallowed up by the pack and he runs slowly out of turn 2. Jamie's got a problem. The race leader has a big problem. He's stuck in gear and Jamie Green's chance of a winner's gone. What was a 6/10 advantage has disappeared and Jamie Green's race has disappeared. So much for being in the box seat. Massive disappointment so early in the race. He's limping round, trying to bring it back to the pit lane. If he's stuck in gear, he might just be able, of course, to use that gear at certain parts of the circuit. So what should have been an advantage just disappears there. Stuck in a high gear, he can't get out of a slow corner, chugs uphill, tumbling down the pack.
It works, sometimes it's not. Well then, you know, it's still drivable, just carry on.
The team asking if he can carry on, but it's a forlorn hope, isn't it? As now the race leader is Eduardo Mortara.
I'm not going to get any points. Should we just save the tyre because I'm stuck in here? Stand by for...
The point Jamie makes, he won't get any points. Do they save the tyres? Well, can he battle on? Let's see. The race order now then is Eduardo Mortara leading, Paul de Resta in second place, Pascal Wehrlein is third, Vittoris is fourth, Farfus is fifth, sixth is Paffett, seventh is Ekstrom, eighth is Wickens, ninth is Vittman, and 10th is Bruno Spengler. But Jamie Green's advantage that was 6/10 at the end of lap 1 disappears with the car seemingly jammed in gear. Could it be something as simple as an electrical reset that might free it all up? Or is it far more serious? Something, sad to say, has cost Jamie a chance of a win because it was a great start and a great first lap, but a lap and a corner into the race, it all goes horribly wrong for him. And now, although Eduardo Mortara is leading the way, he's got a chasing Paul de Resta hunting him down. At the end of the lap, Jamie Green was down in last place, of course, in 24th spot. What else has been happening? Battle between the Mercedes on lap number 2 as Gary Paffett got himself up alongside Robert Wickens, but Matthias Ekstrom in the Audi tried to buy into that as well and get up the inside line. Did it work for him? It did. Ekstrom through by the end of the lap into 7th place, and therefore he is seizing advantage, as is Wehrlein. They're tied on points, but they can get themselves ahead in the championship here of Jamie by the end of the race. So Mortara is leading de Resta by 1.7 seconds. That was the pass done in replay by Ekstrom up on the inside. It was all triggered really by Robert Wickens running a little bit wide and Gary Paffett right up behind him. Another look at Jamie Green's woes as he just can't get the car changed down through the gears. And so now he's in the pit lane. The race pretty much run for him as Danny Juncadella now lines up to have a go at Wickens. Juncadella in the silver and turquoise arrow. The orange and silver is that in the hands of Wickens. But up front, Edo Mortara, he's getting away now with Pascal Wehrlein up into second place. Now, don't forget, he's tied for second in the championship. And I suspect Mercedes, thinking about the team's situation and the driver's situation there, he's a better bet for the title. So he's got himself up past, probably without too much of a fight, Paul de Resta. And he's outscoring Ekstrom. So Wehrlein should get himself into the championship lead. And as Wickens got a problem, look, he's dropping further and further back in the pack now. Robert Wickens tumbling down the order as the cars work their way downhill. Now DRS is enabled. Now the overtaking can come. And it was Jamie Green's problem that created that almost false situation of suddenly Mortara getting onto his tail. So Mortara now leads by 1.7 seconds, but Pascal Wehrlein up into second place has done two absolute bests in the sectors, and Wehrlein is hunting down the new race leader Mortara as they work their way past the pits now. Mortara goes through with an advantage of 1.8 seconds, but Wehrlein is the quickest man on the road. De Resta runs third, Vittoris is fourth, fifth is Farfus, sixth is Paffett just ahead of Ekstrom, and from Mercedes' point of view, they do not need Ekstrom working his way up through the order. Ekstrom runs wide. You just saw the car bounce into the air a little bit as he hit that sausage curb. But now Matthias Ekstrom needs to find a way past Gary Paffett. Here is Farfus for BMW attacking Christian Vittoris. up towards turn 2. Neither of these drivers really a factor as far as the championship now is concerned, but Farfus desperately wants to get himself up the order. Looked like he might have been on for a win in the Spa 24 Hours a week ago, until the BMW that he was in had a major drama and spun out of the lead with a seizure, and that was the end of that race. Farfus now running 5th. He's on the back of Christian Vittoris. But Pascal Wehrlein is hunting down the race leader. Paffett, in the meantime, is trying to keep Ekstrom at bay and take points off him and help Wehrlein, his Mercedes colleague, Mercedes teammate, in the process. It's getting to the stage as we enter the second half of the season after this race, where points and championship situations are crucial. And Pascal Wehrlein at the moment is very much the best bet that Mercedes has. This is Farfus, and he's still hunting down Christian Vittoris. Down towards the rink curve. Farfus, whose season has sort of turned around really with renewed pace at Zandvoort, and again here the Brazilian works his way up towards the timing line as the leaders go through. The gap is 1.8 seconds. Mortara pulling away fractionally. Mortara's had 2 DTM career wins, one of which came here. Well, I said that Verena may well be able to talk to drivers during the race. Sad to say, of course, they're only the drivers with problems, and the first stop for it is going to be Jamie Green, whose car is in the pits. Although, that said, whatever they've done looks like it might be getting him back into the race, because the car has just been wheeled out of its pit box. And Jamie Green, I suspect, we're going to see in a moment, try and get back on track and see if the problem is cured. Or am I being optimistic in saying that, looking out of the window? The car is back on the pit apron. He may be able to rejoin. Ekstrom up ahead of Paffett now. The change has happened for 6th place. Can Paffett fight back? With the DRS enabled, there's more overtaking in the 3 zones around here. The cars now work their way down towards turn 3. Rockenfeller dives at the inside of Spengler. There's contact between the two, and now Adrian Tomczyk tries to get up on the inside of the BMW as well. Does he go through? Yes, he does. And also Tomczyk tries to make a move against Rockenfeller. Right round the outside. That's brave stuff by Adrian Tomczyk, and he has done it. Through he goes. Tomczyk started the race from 11th on the grid, and he's working his way up the order now. That was very brave indeed. Jamie Green's car out of its pit box, turned around and reversed back in by the mechanic, so it looks as though it's going to be a very long stop, and Jamie is, to all intents and purposes, no more in the race. The leaders go by with 1.9 seconds the margin. Bruno Spengler having to work really hard to defend. This was how Ekstrom got the place into turn number 2, up the inside for 6th spot then. And Paffett just gave him enough racing room. It was close as Gary tried to turn in. Hans-Jürgen Abt approves of all of that up the inside. Now, what about this situation between Spengler looking back from his car and Mike Rockenfeller? He made a real lunge up the inside, whack. That put Spengler out wide. Tomczyk bought into it. Good opportunistic stuff, that, by Adrian Tomczyk. Now up into 9th place is the Frenchman who lives in London. But Mortara still has the advantage. Wehrlein quicker by 400ths on this lap within the first sector. But have a look now at Farfus, because he's right up behind Christian Vittoris. And Spengler is being given a driving standards flag for forcing another driver to leave the track. Now Farfus on the back of Christian Vittoris for 4th place. Battles raging on right the way down the order. Martin Tomczyk at the moment is the man running in last spot, with not a really happy weekend again, I'm afraid, for the former champion. Winner here back in 2011 as the cars now thread their way downhill. And there, Mike Rockenfeller, after the skirmishes of a lap ago, he's down in 10th, chasing Adrian Tomczyk. Pascal Wehrlein, best middle sector of anybody in the race thus far. And Farfus now about to get into the DRS zone and perhaps make his move against Vittoris. On board with Farfus now. Quick check in the mirror to see who is behind him, and the answer is Ekstrom, who is 1.8 seconds back. So now Gusto doesn't really have to worry about what's going on behind. He can concentrate on ahead, out of turn 1, back on the power, speed building, quickest part of the circuit. It's a long, long drag and a real climb, this, up towards turn 2. On board with Farfus, briefly up towards turn 2, but let's check in with the championship leader as well, Jamie Green. His problems, Verena can tell us more.
Yeah, I'm here with Jamie. Jamie, everything was looking so good. You had a superb start, but what a massive disappointment after, I think, just 2 minutes. What happened? Stuck in gear, or what was the problem?
Yeah, the gear shift stopped working, so I got off the line well, better than Edo, and I think he didn't have a great start. I had a good one, and so yeah, comfortably in the lead, and got a good gap straight away, so I thought the car felt pretty good for the half a lap that I did do. So, you know, I was feeling quite confident. But then when I exited the last corner, my upshift didn't work once, and I thought, well, that's strange, it's not usual. And then when I arrived at corner 1, I couldn't downshift for the corner, so instead of being in 3rd gear, I was in 5th. And then obviously Edo passed me and stuff, and I tried to continue, but I just couldn't downshift in some places, and game over.
But I guess your team manages to fix it until tomorrow, right? No problem?
Sorry, I didn't hear.
You think your team won't have a problem fixing it by tomorrow, right?
No, I think fixing the problem should be possible. I've got some really good mechanics on my car, so I've got faith in them that they'll put it right for tomorrow.
Best of luck for tomorrow. Thank you so much. Back to you.
Thanks, Verena. Well, big disappointment for Jamie Green. Yes, it should be fixed for tomorrow. Good engineers on that car, but it's a shame the problem's happened as Paffett's under attack now from Vittman. Side by side they run. Champions both, raiding against former. And up the inside, Marco Vittman then. He's not made the move yet, but he's up alongside and he'll have the inside line for the next corner down towards Rauch at turn 3. Mike Rockenfeller in the background has done the best first sector. He's catching Torbay, and Paffett does get squeezed out by Vittman, who goes up into 7th place. But Gary tries to fight back as Vittman runs wide. But Gary Paffett's going to find himself on the outside line for the next corner. Can he go round the outside? They almost touch again. It's brave stuff by Paffett, but to no avail. Vittman hangs onto the opportunity up the inside, but look behind. Torbay is closing, and so too is Rockenfeller. Paffett hard at work. Out of turn 5, that quick flick right, and then the run down towards the Rindt curve. But now, with Robert Wickens incidentally having pitted as well, we saw him dropping back. Paffett has fallen into the clutches of Torbay, who is bringing Rockenfeller with him as well. Mortara leads by 1.8 seconds, and he has just done the fastest lap of the race. But behind, there's still a lot to shake out of this race. Vittman here, coming up towards the timing line. He's now 7th. Paffett is 8th. Torbay is 9th. Rockenfeller 10th. And out of this lot, Rocky looks like the most likely too. He has a look up the inside of Torbay. Can't do it at turn 1. 26.5 minutes, just over, still on the clock as the field powers its way uphill. But Eduardo Mortara with 2 DTM race wins to his name, one of which came here a couple of years back. He is the man at the moment doing his level best to get away from Pascal Wehrlein, who of course is outscoring Ekstrom as Vittman goes wide, gives the opportunity back to Paffett, who says thank you very much, and Gary nips back ahead. He retakes them 7th place, and Marco Vittman is back in the wheel tracks as they work their way down towards turn 3. Is this an opportunity for Vittman to make a move up the inside? The answer is no. What he has to do now though is be conscious of Adrian Torbay all over him like a rash as they drop downhill. And Torbay having one of his more racier showings of the season here. He looks to the inside. He's trying to unsettle Vittman as they head through the Pirelli left-hander, drop downhill, then into the Wörth corner, and then that quick flick right. A replay here on board with Paffett. Vittman just outbrakes himself, scrabbles around the corner, and Gary Paffett does it absolutely right, gets the right line, gets the braking right, and then powers out of the corner, retakes the place. Mortara, another best lap of the race just set. He's now 2.5 seconds ahead of Pascal Wehrlein. 3rd is Paul di Resta, 3 seconds back. 4th is Vitoris, and still Augusto Farfus is the best of the BMW drivers. But what he can't yet do is find a way past Christian Vitoris. And before people start saying, oh, well, the reason the BMWs are doing badly here is because of the weight, bear in mind that Wehrlein, who is running at the moment in 2nd place, has got one of the heaviest cars in the race, 1127.5 kilos. So it's not all down to weight. The BMWs, for myriad reasons, just haven't quite been as hooked up. And Martin Tomczyk's BMW, as I say that, has just come into the pit lane as well. He'd been struggling towards the rear of the field. So Tomczyk, there he is, into the pit lane. Door off, day done. So that means that we've now lost 1 from each of the manufacturers. We've lost a BMW, Tomczyk, an Audi, Jamie Green, and a Mercedes, Robert Wickens. And a replay of the start. Have a look at how Jamie Green launched himself away from the lights. Bearing in mind he was a length back on the staggered grid, but the inside line works out for him into turn 1. And at that point, you think, excellent, could be a win here for Jamie. But a lap later, and cruel luck when the gear shift stopped working. And there, Ekstrom getting forced out wide, Rockenfeller likewise. But a great start for the orange Audi, but it was not to be sustained. So we now have Eduardo Mortara in the lead of the race as they come up with 24 minutes still to run. Over the timing line they go. Mortara is ahead of Pascal Wehrlein now by 2.6 seconds. Now, is Farfus a bit closer this time? Maybe. Is there a challenge to be made? Possibly. Over the line, the gap between them is still 0.4 of a second. And then Ekstrom has now shaken off the challenge of those behind, but he's not really catching that wave up the road. Still, it's Paffett, then Vittman, Tombe and Rockenfeller to round out the top 10, and those are the points. Juncker is 11th, ahead of Spengler, de Costa. Then it's Nico Müller, Maxime Martin 15th, Timo Scheider is 16th, Miguel Molina 17th, and Tom Blomqvist is 18th, all in a long, long line. Paffett versus Vittman once more for 7th place. Gary can't shake them off, but he is at least now keeping Vittman at bay. What about the Audis behind? What can Tombe do? Mike Rockenfeller is still pushing as well as the cars now work their way down towards turn 3. We're approaching the halfway point now. It's 40 minutes plus 1 lap, remember, this race. And as the fuel load starts to come down, the improved sector times being shown, so still plenty of drivers here with the pace to push and gain ground. Scheider getting himself now right onto the back of Maxime Martin. You're on board with Scheider, dropping downhill. Danny Juncker is at the head of this queue. Juncker was another driver on Spa 24-hour duty last weekend. Timo Scheider running in 16th place, and he's hard at work. He's working his way up towards turn 6, across the line, have just gone the race leaders. So the top 2 well clear now. And there is Gary Paffett coming off the Red Bull Mobile curve up towards the timing line now. Vittman has enabled the DRS at the rear wing drops. That'll give him another 5 kilometres an hour, but he's only really close enough now when they get to the braking zone, and he can't therefore run up the inside. The DRS helps him to close, but not to pass. Back into DRS. You see the rear wing drop on Rockenfeller's car. That means now that he should be able to get onto terms with Tombe, but Tombe is so close to Vittman. He's in the DRS there as well. So for the Audis, neither of them really benefiting. And now Tombe makes the dive up the inside, and he goes through Rockenfeller up the inside of Vittman, who cut across to get back on the inside of Tombe. Rockenfeller almost got his nose chopped off there. Vittman versus Tombe on the run down towards turn 3. And Vittman in the white BMW, the Ice Watch backed car, the M4 DTM, will have the inside line unless Tombe breaks very, very late indeed. He stands his ground on the outside, and they touch, and that gives Rockenfeller a chance up the inside. Marco Vittman and Adrian Tombe just touch through turn 3. Tombe comes off worse. All that hard work for nothing. Rockenfeller is ahead of him now. Downhill they go. Marco Vittman then hangs on to 8th place. But look, while all that squabbling has gone on, Paffett has disappeared up the road. Now, let's catch up with more news from the pits. Not a happy race for Robert Wickens. Verena?
It's very loud here at the moment, but I'm here with Robert Wickens. And Robert, obviously we want to know what happened. Let's just wait for a second. It's really, really loud, so we're just going to wait a few seconds. Right, so the obvious question just being what happened?
I don't know what you asked, but I'm guessing you asked what happened. I don't know, to be honest. For some reason, the car just didn't feel right. Don't really know what happened. I didn't really... Yeah, I had some front damage, but to be honest, it was really minor. I didn't even know I had contact with anybody. It was so light, but there was a lot of damage on the car, so... It's a shame. There could have been good points today. But yeah, the car was just undrivable from after turn 1, so I don't really know what happened.
I guess looking forward to tomorrow then for a better race. Obviously he's not in a good mood, so back to you.
Yeah, not for the first time this year, Robert Wickens with a car that he declares undrivable, and for reasons unknown, because he says he doesn't know what the problem was, but it was undrivable, retires from the race. But it's happened already this year, that. So again, Robert Wickens is a retirement. So that's 2 of the 3 ticked off. Next stop, Martin Tomczyk in, as you will have gathered, a very noisy pit lane, because when the field accelerates past the pits, the noise hangs in the air, sort of trapped between the high buildings on either side of the road. Eduardo Mortara leads. He's done 14 laps. We've got 20 minutes to go into the second half of the race now in terms of time, plus that 1 lap at the end. In second place, it's Pascal Wehrlein, who potentially now is going to take over the lead of the championship. Third place, Paul de Resta, having one of his better showings of the season, certainly compared to troubled times at Zandvoort. In 4th is Christian Vitoris. And then in 5th spot, Augusto Farfus, who is still stuck behind the Mercedes. Matthias Ekstrom rounds out the top 6. Eki doing his best to work his way through to the front, but as he goes out of turn 2 there, he's still falling away from those ahead. Let's catch up with Martin Tomczyk. Let's head back to the pits in Verena.
Yep, I'm here with Martin Tomczyk, another man who couldn't finish the race. What was your problem, Martin? Why did you have to stop?
Actually, I had in fight with Timo Scheider in the first 3 corners after the start, and actually I I really like him as a fair fighter, but he went a bit too far, and unfortunately he destroyed my car at that moment. I don't know. I have to speak with him. Normally it's not his type of driving, but unfortunately I couldn't finish the race due to the fact that I couldn't get the pace. I was a second off, and so I retired. The guys have to work on the car now for tomorrow. It's a shame because the start was again not bad, but it is like it is.
Thank you very much, and back to you.
It illustrates the perils, doesn't it, in a sense, of all the little aero aids on a DTM car. They're so dependent on the aero that it doesn't take very much in terms of contact to completely ruin the car. You heard Robert Wicken saying it was undrivable, but he didn't even realise he'd had contact, so light was the touch. But the aero affected, and therefore it's out of the race, and the same for Martin Tomczyk. Contact, whereas in other touring car categories you can be a lot more robust and get away with it. But in this, if you want to do the overtaking, you might have to be forceful, but then it affects the cars quite seriously. So Tomczyk, the third of the retirements that we've had from the race. Mortara leads Wehrlein. 2.8 seconds is the margin, and in the meantime here, it is Marco Vittman versus Mike Rockenfeller as they head towards turn 2. The slow 60 km/h second gear corner. Turn right, over the brow, drop downhill, climb up, drop down again. And you can see the way that Gary Paffett is getting away. Gary's still in 7th place. Tombe dropping back. I suspect his car damaged as a result of the clash with Vittman, who is still hanging on in there, but he's under attack. Rockenfeller to the inside now. Makes the move. Rear wing drops as he hits the DRS, and through he goes. Mike Rockenfeller gains the place, and he's worked hard for that for many, many laps. So he's gone 8th now. Rockenfeller through. He picks up the spot. Ernst Moser on the pit wall there, the boss of Phoenix that runs this car, and indeed for whom Mike was driving in the Spa 24 hours a week ago. Ernst Moser watches on, and he sees his man gain the place, and this is how he did it. Wide in, forces Vittman to come in and commit a little bit too quick, slithers out wide, and Rockenfeller nips through on the inside, even though it's a little bit dusted there. You saw the dust being kicked up from behind the car, but he's gone by. Go, 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 go. Yes, says Ernst Moser. So he's done it in frustration in the BMW RMG garage because their man has dropped down 1 place. Right, there's the leader, Mortara. There is second, Pascal Wehrlein. And a long way back third is Paul de Resta. 4th and 5th, still Christian Vittorius ahead of Augusto Farfus, who is oh so close, but still unable to really benefit. He can't quite get close enough to make this move in the Shell Helix BMW, but he's still the best of the BMW drivers. 6th is Ekstrom. Now, what about Ekstrom catching before the end of the race? No, I think he's plateaued now, Matthias. He kind of needs a safety car, really, to bring him back into the mix. Farfus on board. 2nd gear. Powers downhill. Up to 3rd, up to 4th. 5th as he heads down now through the Pirelli left-hander. And then the next corner of Wörth is the fastest corner on the circuit. Flick right, and then the run over the brow down towards Rindt. And Vittorius getting away here, so the Mercedes has the pace over the BMW. The race leaders go over the timing line, and how about this for a big old queue of cars, all diving through Wörth corner now. Maxime Martin in the BMW charging on behind us. Bruno Spengler has lost out on this lap to Nico Müller, who is up into 13th place. So it's Müller, Spengler, Maxime Martin just ahead of us. We're on board with Timo Scheider as the cars head past the pits with 15 minutes on the clock now. Eduardo Mortara, race leader, 3 seconds ahead. And this is how Nico Müller made the move. Got right onto the tail of Bruno Spengler on the run out of turn 2. Up the inside, little bit of an elbow out. Nudged away by, and just got across to cover the line going into turn 3. So physical stuff, but it has worked for Nico Müller. How much damage that's done to Bruno Spengler's car remains to be seen. He's still being able to defend. He's got Maxime Martin behind him, and then Antonio Felix da Costa, the BMWs.
Behind you is faster than you. The BMW behind you is faster than you.
And there's the message to Bruno Spengler, the BMW behind is faster than you, so it might be in a moment that Spengler runs a little bit wide somewhere. Let's see how the order might get shuffled here. I was going to say the BMWs collectively way down compared to Zandvoort, despite the fact that they're not as heavy as some of the cars ahead of them. BMWs earlier on in the season seemed to really struggle to get hooked up in qualifying, and Zandvoort wasn't just about the weight, it was about the fact that BMWs like fast corners, and there were so many of them at Zandvoort. Here, there aren't anywhere near as many. You've got a slow-ish turn 1, a slow turn 2, Turn 3 isn't that quick, second gear corner, so the BMW's not really at a circuit that they are ideal for. Eduardo Mortara, meantime, has won here in the past, and it looks as though it's going to be another win for him, barring a disaster, because he's now got this 3-second cushion over Pascal Wehrlein. They're in third place, Paul de Resta, and fourth and fifth, Vittoris still ahead of Augusto Farfus. He must be getting mighty frustrated now because he just cannot find a way onto terms with that Mercedes. He can reel it in with DRS, but he can't pass because he loses too much over the rest of the lap. And Ekstrom, sixth, is now starting to just edge up onto the back. Rockenfeller running in eighth, 1.9 seconds back from Gary Paffett as the cars head downhill there. Farfus running in fifth place. And Matthias Ekstrom running in sixth spot. He's going to lose out in the title race relative to Pascal Wehrlein. And of course, after Mortara, he is the next best of the Audis. There's nobody else other than the race leader to do him a favour, and the gap first to sixth is 15 seconds, so Ekstrom here is going to have to get on with it himself. He can't really rely on any help from fellow Audi drivers to help him out for points. Some super slow-mos of the Ekstrom Audi, followed there by the Vittoris Farfus battle. And behind Christian Vittoris is the BMW. That was Tom Blomqvist running wide. There is Farfus out of turn 2 at the highest point of the lap. Race leaders have gone by to complete 19 laps now. The gap 3.1 seconds, came down ever so slightly last time. An early action sparks fly from Robert Wickens. How's Lucas Auer getting on? He's 21st, which means I'm afraid last at the moment. In the Mercedes, there is the race leader. Eduardo Mortara just bouncing himself over that sausage curb put in on the outside of turn 1. If you run over that, there's AstroTurf as well, and if you go over both of them collectively, then you're giving yourself a bit of a penalty. So track limits not being as big a problem.
Speed 2 and you lose speed 3 compared to Rocky.
Gary Paffett being given the situation relative to Mike Rockenfeller. 7th and 8th they run. And Farfus there looks still close to Christian Vittoris, but now Ekstrom is starting to chip away. It was hovering around the 2-second mark for quite a long time. Then it dropped to 1.8. Now it's dropped to 1.4. And perhaps the fact that he can see now the traffic ahead of him is spurring him on even more. And also, it won't be long before he's able to use DRS as well. So Ekstrom now to get himself up with Farfus. Let's see whether he can find a way past the BMW. And if he can, do something that Farfus hasn't been able to do and get past the Mercedes. Farfus is working hard, no doubt about that. Being thrown around inside the cabin as he heads up over the line.
9 laps to go, 9 laps.
9 laps is the instruction. That's from the engineers looking at the lap times and looking at the time remaining, which is just under 11 minutes. It is 11 minutes plus 1 lap at the end, remember.
No DRS for Ekstrom, no DRS.
Ekstrom not yet close enough for the DRS. Farfus trying to use his to get back up with Vittoris. He's working oh so hard down through the gears. The paddle shift, just the touch from the finger end as he goes down through the box up to second gear corner at turn 2. So 4th, 5th and 6th now. Vittoris, Farfus and Ekstrom a second and a half back. He actually lost out a fraction on that last lap, but he's almost with them. You ignore Matthias Ekstrom at your peril. He turns his way out of turn 3. A man with his own World Rallycross team, of course, in which he competes when there are non-clashing DTM rounds in the EKS team with an Audi product. What else? But here he's hunting down a BMW and a Mercedes, and you can see just from the way the car's moving around how committed Ekstrom is to the task ahead of him. There's Paffett running downhill 7th, 8th Rockenfeller, 9th Vittman, and 10th is Tomczyk, who was higher than that earlier on, but then had that brush with Vittman. The leaders go through 3.2 seconds over the line. You're looking at 10th Tomczyk heading down towards turn 6. Number 27 is the Playboy Audi, the number that his father Patrick carried when he took over the seat at Ferrari of the late Gilles Villeneuve. And of course, these days, drivers are allowed to choose a permanent number, Formula 1 style. The exception being Marco Vittman, who gets number 1 as the reigning champion.
1.3. 1.3.
Ekstrom 1.3 seconds back then from Farfus. Can he get there before the end? The gap came down by 1/10 of a second. Eki is pushing on, no doubt about that. Now Tomczyk still 10th, inching up onto the back of Marco Vittman, and there is Ekstrom charging now. of the two Red Bull-backed drivers in the race, he's the better place because Antonio Felix da Costa is down in 12th for BMW. But you can see the task ahead of Ekstrom. Those two cars are the ones he's hunting down. In the first sector of this lap, he was slightly slower than Farfus. So Farfus, of course, using the DRS and therefore can go 5 km/h quicker because he's that close to Vitoris. Ekstrom has got to do this all by himself. He's not yet close enough for the DRS to kick in. With 8 minutes and 20 seconds on the clock, the leaders have gone through, and the gap's 3 seconds now. Still, this queue rages on behind. Martin has got himself up past Spengler as predicted over the team radio because Maxime was quicker, so he's up into 14th place now. And Spengler is defending from Scheider, who's got Molina tucked up behind him. Antonio Felix da Costa over the brow of the hill. He's being hunted down by Nico Müller, winner of the Nürburgring 24 Hours this year, as the cars head out of Rindt and into Red Bull Mobile up to the end of the lap. This was how Maxime Martin made the move against Bruno Spengler. And actually, it wasn't Spengler getting out of the way, was it? Maxime had to work his way through for that. That was a lot less cooperative than I was anticipating it to be from Bruno Spengler. So Maxime Martin takes now 14th place. He's out of the points, all that hard work, and he's still nowhere near scoring. Timo Scheider's view, oof, from that angle, it was a big biff between the two, wasn't it? And that is with two different BMWs almost coming to blows. So Maxime Martin is ahead. Spengler slides his way as he puts down the power out of turn 2. 7 minutes and change on the clock. On board with Scheider now. Timo running in 16th place as they head downhill. Out of turn 3. Now Spengler's car, after a couple of impacts in this race, is hobbled, and you can see it falling away from Martin. How long before Scheider finds a way through? Scheider, we know from Martin Tomczyk, has had contact earlier on in the race with that BMW, so is his car going to be compromised as well? Timo Scheider down in 16th place, double champion, but Timo has not really had a happy time of it for quite a few races now, probably going back 18 months really. It's been a real struggle for Timo. The race leader, Eduardo Mortara, in the meantime, turns his way up out of turn 2, still being chased by Pascal Wehrlein. But the gap, 2.9 seconds. It comes down a little bit. One lap, it goes up again the next, but never enough really for Wehrlein to think about mounting a challenge. To turn 3 they come, into the braking zone. Mortara to Wehrlein. It was 3.2, then down to 3, then 2.9, but with only 6 minutes plus a lap, it's still too great a margin for Pascal Wehrlein to really be able to do anything about the leader, I'm afraid. Downhill they go. Just look at the gap they've pulled over Paul di Resta. Paul's best result of the year has been a 3rd place. He's on target to emulate that here, but a distant 3rd. And Wehrlein, intriguingly, has just done the best middle sector of anybody in the race. So he's not given up, has he? He's taken only a few hundredths out of Mortara, but he's still pushing as hard as he can. Even this late in the race, he's not giving up. And perhaps trying to get close enough to force a mistake out of Mortara, but they don't come very often. Leader goes through as you look at di Resta coming down towards the Red Bull curve. The gap's 2.8 seconds now between the leaders, and Paul di Resta a long way adrift. He is only now over the timing line. He's 8 seconds back from Wehrlein. And in turn, he is 5 seconds ahead of Vitoris, who is then 7/10 up on Farfus, who is only 11/10 up on Ekstrom now. So Ekstrom is almost close enough to benefit from the DRS. Uphill they head towards turn 2. Farfus has spent the entire race trapped behind Vitoris, but can Ekstrom get close enough to work away past one or both of them into the last 5 minutes plus 1 lap as they come off turn 2? Ekstrom is the one that goes wide. Gets the power down, sprints away, but the time he'd gained, he's probably lost again by running out wide. And behind, look, Paffett is being caught by Mike Rockenfeller for 7th place, so that's not done yet either. Downhill goes Christian Vitoris, running in 4th place. And Christian, whose best has been a 2nd place this season, keeping Farfus at bay. Augusto's best has been a 2nd, and Ekstrom, of course, has already had 1 victory. 20 to his name in his DTM career, an illustrious one, a double champion. And for him, he reckons this is a home race, not just because he lives not that far away, but because it's all about Red Bull, and he has been sponsored by Red Bull for so long. They've been with him throughout his DTM career, that this matters hugely this weekend to Matthias Ekstrom. At the moment, he's 6th. Timo Scheider then chasing on behind Bruno Spengler. Now what's happened behind, because that battle pack has really broken up. Molina there has got himself ahead of Blomqvist, but what was a long queue earlier has now broken up rather.
Ekstrom has no DRS behind you, no DRS.
Fahrfuß, 1 second. 1 second to Fahrfuß.
That's part of the story. Blomqvist and Molina getting themselves together. And that for 17th place, the Audi eventually ahead. So Ekstrom closing on Farfus. 1 second is that margin. Augusto Farfus will go to bed tonight probably with the back of Christian Vittorius' Mercedes imprinted in his brain, because that's really all he's been able to stare at for the last 37 minutes or so. But now he's going to have to look in his mirrors, because Ekstrom is getting closer. Not by much, not that rapidly, but he's just creeping up there. And Ekstrom is absolutely hurling that car around. In the first sector of this lap, he was still down on Farfus, who again was able to use the DRS on the drag up towards turn 2. But the BMW has done everything it can to get close enough to attack the Mercedes ahead, to no avail. 2.5 minutes on the clock, leaders have gone by, 26 laps down, and the margin is 2.9 seconds. Downhill comes Ekstrom. Through Rindt, into Red Bull Mobile, through turn 6, through turn 7. Farfus then ahead in the orange and yellow and white BMW.
3 laps to go, Augusto, 3 laps.
You are in the window, DRS active, DRS active.
So the DRS active for Matthias Ekstrom.
Ekstrom has DRS behind you.
And Farfus has a good look in the mirror. He knows that Ekstrom is coming. Uphill they run. That DRS allows the rear wing to drop to give you more speed, and it gives you another 5 kilometers an hour. But although Farfus uses it to close, Ekstrom now is closing a little, but it just washes out a bit, that Audi, as he comes out of turn 2. So what he made under braking, he loses coming out of the corner. 1 minute and 3/4 on the clock here. Race 1 at Spielberg. And Ekstrom again is using that DRS to get right up behind Farfus. The battle is about to be joined for 5th place. The Swede catching the Brazilian. Downhill they run. And if those two get themselves together, it will take all of the pressure off Christian Vittorius, who is running there in 4th spot at the moment. And he's been there race long. He may not have the pace to go after the top 3, but he's done a good job of defending, hasn't he? He's kept Farfus at bay. The race leader is about to come over the timing line. As he does so, 1 minute and 11 seconds, though there's time for this. The clock will hit 0, and then there's 1 more, so 2 laps to run. Through in 2nd place, Pascal Wehrlein. The gap is 2.5 seconds. In 3rd place is De Resta, and then 4th, 5th, 6th, Vittorius, Farfus and Ekstrom. And have a look at the gaps as they come over the line, because now Ekstrom is closer to Farfus and Farfus is to Vittorius. Into the braking zone. Out of the right-hander of turn 1, over the curve there runs Ekstrom. That won't help life.
2 laps to go, 2 laps to go.
And those 2 laps then underway for Matthias Ekstrom as he climbs uphill, chasing after Farfus, who's going down through the gears. 2nd gear for turn 2. Can Ekstrom stay with him this time? Yes, he can, pretty much, as they sprint off the corner now. Heading downhill. Behind, Paffett versus Rockenfeller has not been decided either. 0.8 at the start of the lap, so Rocky is within DRS zone as well. DRS range, I should say. This is turn 3, and Ekstrom closes right up, but then again you see the car just washes out a little bit. The clock is going to hit 0 any second now, so the race leader will come through in a moment. Eduardo Mortara to start the last lap of the race. Through the last right. Eduardo Mortara sprints up towards the line. Behind him, way up onto the curb, Pascal Wehrlein. Through goes Mortara. Audi flags wave. He's onto his last lap. Pascal Wehrlein is 2.1 seconds behind. The gap has come down a little, but there's still enough for Eduardo Mortara to be safe as he works his way now up towards turn 2. But what's going on behind him? This is what's happening for 4th.
Last lap.
Farfus onto his last lap. Any instruction to Ekstrom as he heads past the pits. See how focused Farfus is. He's attacking, he's defending, he's trying to bear in mind where and when to use the DRS.
This is the last lap. This is the last lap.
Ekstrom onto his last lap now, right up behind Farfus. But he's not close enough to attack, and nor is Augusto Farfus close enough to attack Christian Vittorius. They all concertina up at turn 2, and now can Farfus use the DRS? He's close enough, surely, for it to work this time. He's trying to not only get past Vittoris, but he's also trying to keep at bay Matthias Ekstrom's Audi. Can Farfus make a run down on the inside into turn 3? Opportunity denied. Ekstrom closing right up onto the back of him. Was that the last chance saloon for Farfus? Well, Ekstrom hasn't given up, has he? Because he moves up almost alongside the BMW as they drop downhill one side and then the other. Ekstrom up the inside. Do they touch? It looked like they may have done, but Ekstrom has the line, has the advantage, and he makes the move. Great racecraft by Matthias Ekstrom. He makes the move stick. Through he goes as Eduardo Mortara comes up to win race 1 at Spielberg. Eduardo Mortara wins. Second is Pascal Wehrlein, and third will go the way of Paul de Resta. And fourth, after a very gutsy defence, is going to be Christian Vittoris, but Matthias Ekstrom is fifth as he works his way up towards the line.
Good move, Matthias, good move. Repeat of 2 years ago. Please save fuel, good job, important points. P5, Edo won the race, good job.
So delight at Audi, not a bad result for Mercedes. Pascal Wehrlein then now takes over the advantage in the championship, with Matthias Ekstrom being fifth and Jamie Green a retirement. But Eduardo Mortara, a great drive, dominated the race once. Jamie Green had his problems and had to retire, but Eduardo Mortara didn't put a wheel wrong, and this was the move from Matthias Ekstrom. Almost touched Farfus, who blocked. Bodywork went flying, so there was some sort of rub between them, and Ekstrom made the move up the inside. Great racing, that. And Matthias Ekstrom through, and the reaction on the Audi pit wall. As Jürgen Abt likes a good racer, and Matthias Ekstrom is just that. So through he has gone, gains the place. But Eduardo Mortara, it is the race winner with his Abt run car. The Castrol Edge sponsored car from pole position. Didn't get the best start. Jamie Green got that, but huge disappointment for Jamie. A race that should have really netted him maximum points comes to nothing. Not just scoring badly, but again, not scoring at all. So it's been pretty bleak of late for Jamie, as you look at Eduardo Mortara taking the checkered flag, but that is 4 races in a row now with no points for Jamie Green. Eduardo Mortara takes victory, and that his second win here and a third career win. And you can see the delight at Audi. And of course, it was a 1-5. It wasn't exactly an Audi route, was it, in the same way that BMW had here last year, or indeed at Zandvoort, but with a couple of cars up there, very sweet indeed. Eduardo Mortara for Audi wins from Pascal Wehrlein, Paul de Resta and Christian Vittoris for Mercedes. Matthias Ekstrom on the last lap, 5th, ahead of the best BMW, Augusto Farfus. Gary Paffett, 7th from Mike Rockenfeller, Marco Vittman and Adrian Tombay. They complete the scorers, ahead of Danu Juncadella, Nico Müller, 12th, 13th, Antonio Felix da Costa, Maxime Martin, 14th, ahead of Bruno Spengler. But a great result for Audi. Let's hear from Dr. Wolfgang Ulrich with Verena.
I'm here with a very happy Dr. Ulrich. Fantastic job Eduardo Mortara did there. That really was amazing. However, are you also a little bit disappointed about Jamie Green, who also, of course, now lost his Leaders' Championship? However, let's also talk about Eki, who just did a fantastic job in the end.
Yeah, for sure. Jamie was really unlucky today. But on the other hand, yeah, this is a part that can happen. And the great thing was Edo showed really a thrilling performance. And I think Rocky was strong, Eki was strong, so some of the guys really showed what we can do here, and I think it was as well good for the spectators. I'm really happy that here in my home racetrack we can come back with such a good result, a strong team effort, and I'm really happy for all of them.
And I'm sure you're going to repeat it tomorrow?
Thank you.
Thank you. Back to you.
So Dr. Wolfgang Ulrich, an Austrian, celebrates an Audi win on his home soil, and Eduardo Mortara, Pascal Wehrlein and Paul de Resta out of their respective cars, and in a moment they will make their way towards the interviews and then ultimately up towards the podium. But Eduardo Mortara, who's had a couple of second places this year, now gets a win. Pascal Wehrlein, who has had a win this season, now takes over the championship lead, and Paul de Resta equaling his best finish of the DTM media team there. Make sure that the drivers go to the weight check, and then they will get the regulation caps before they head up to the podium, and then of course on to the press conference after that. So Eduardo Mortara for Audi takes the race win and makes sure that he thanks and congratulates and celebrates with all of the engineers, all of the Audi guys that have made that result possible. The DTM is an ultra-competitive championship, and when you're talking about thousandths of a second here separating you from others, then it really is a true team effort. There's Pascal Wehrlein, helmet and hands device off. Makes his way towards, in a few moments, the TV cameras, but Eduardo Mortara punching the air, having taken a race win, steps out of the car. And that, of course, is going to bring him into the mix in the championship as well, because he came here 4th on 58 points. Give him the 25 for that, and he's back in the mix. So Pascal Wehrlein now has 94 points to Matthias Ekström's 86. Mortara up to 3rd on 83, and Jamie Green down to 4th on 81. So a real shuffle around in the championship, and Jamie will not need reminding that that was the one that got away, and it was through no fault of his own, seemingly the gear shift stopping working, and disaster therefore for the British driver. 2 race wins he's had this year, but no points for the 4th race in a row. And now it is Eduardo Mortara who becomes the best placed of the Audi drivers. Sorry, second best behind Matthias Ekström. Ekström still the best. Let's hear from Paul di Resta, 3rd place finish with Verena.
A fantastic 3rd place for Paul di Resta, and you're back on the podium. Last time was Hockenheim. How's it feel?
Yeah, it's been a pretty good weekend so far. We've been able to run quite quickly at the front end of the grid, and I think looking good ahead of tomorrow. I think our tyre choice was probably a bit different to the others in front. So hoping it's dry and we can continue the progress, because up until now the car needs a clean, and send it again tomorrow and hopefully be up the front.
All right, well, best of luck for that. Thank you so much, Paul, and back to you.
So the retirements, Robert Wickens damage, Martin Tomczyk damage, and Jamie Green the gear shift. But yes, just to clarify, Matthias Ekström then the best placed of the Audi drivers, but Mortara up to 2nd now ahead of Jamie Green. And so with just 3 points between Eki and Mortara, and then a further 2 points back Jamie Green. It's going to be fascinating to see how it all pans out between the Audi drivers. But Pascal Wehrlein then, who had his first win in the wet last year at Lausitzring, now becomes the championship leader. 3 cars sat in Parc Fermé. Let's have a look at the way the top 3 finish. Paul di Resta it was, who came through to take that 3rd position after a frantic first few laps to get himself up the order. But Paul di Resta, who started 4th, benefiting of course from the demise of Jamie Green, and up into 3rd place. Pascal Wehrlein coming home in 2nd, but importantly taking over the lead of the championship. The car carrying a tribute to Jules Bianchi, as well as a message of support to Michael Schumacher. But Eduardo Mortara has a first victory of the season, and what a day. Pole position and a race win, and for a man driving with a broken thumb, he's not fazed by it at all, is he? Eduardo Mortara, the Italian for Castrol Edge. Audi is victorious here at the Red Bull Ring, and for Hans-Jürgen Abt's team, it is a victory to round out day 1 of the race action here at Spielberg. The celebrations down in the pit lane, there'll be more of those to come later in the evening, but completely different atmosphere, no doubt, at the Rosberg team after Jamie Green's demise while being in the lead of the race. And another look at this move by Matthias Ekström. Was there contact as he swapped sides? Yes, there was. Just glanced the back of Farfus's car. Bits of bodywork went flying, but he was able to stick the Audi's nose at the inside, and through he went. It was hard, but it was a fair move, and it was one that you can kind of expect Matthias Ekström to pull. How did Farfus feel it? Yes, enough to give him a real slide, and Matthias Ekström through. So Augusto Farfus, having shadowed Christian Vitoris for the main part of the race, loses out right at the very end, and Matthias Ekström coming through for 5th position. All important points for Matthias Ekström in the championship, and so looking down across the pit lane to the podium. The drivers just about ready to go. And in a few moments' time, out they will come. For third place, Paul di Resta. For second place, Pascal Wehrlein. And for the race win, Eduardo Mortara. And you can guarantee that the ABD team, Audi mechanics and engineers, are going to be in good voice when Eduardo Mortara steps forward in a moment onto the podium. Everybody present and correct, as Eduardo Mortara delights in seeing the checkered flag first after 2 second places, and then able to celebrate with the spectacular donuts to entertain a very sizable crowd here at the Red Bull Ring after the Grand Prix. The next biggest event that comes here, of course, the DTM, and with an open paddock and lots of racing across the 3 days, it's a great weekend for the fans. From the high grandstands overlooking this sort of amphitheatre feel to the circuit, you can see so much of a lap and therefore see lots and lots of good racing. So Eduardo Mortara is just about ready, finishes the bottle of water. You can see the bandaged thumb, but it's certainly not slowed him, has it, over the course of the race, as the winner of race 9, Eduardo Mortara, steps forward onto the podium, onto the top step, and he is a delighted man as he takes a third career DTM victory. For second place, and the new championship leader, Pascal Wehrlein, steps forward to a great reception from the Mercedes engineers. The Guix Mercedes driver for second place. And then for third spot, Paul di Resta exorcises the demons of Zandvoort, and he's on the podium for third place. But Audi, the winning manufacturer, ABD, the winning team. And they will be represented on the podium as well as for Eduardo Mortara. They will now be the Italian national anthem. So Eduardo Mortara, the Italian national anthem drowned out by the helicopter overhead, I think, but everybody celebrates a great drive by Edo. Didn't put a wheel wrong, and driving in the discomfort in the broken thumb. Great job done. Alex Versthorn, the senior vice president of Deutsche Post, is the man who hands over the trophy to the winner and also to the winning team, which goes to the ABD Audi team. After a great job done all round, Hans-Jürgen Abt is there to lead the applause of team and driver. The second place trophy goes the way from Marc Girardelli, multiple alpine skiing world champion, to Pascal Wehrlein. Handshakes all round with those on the podium. And then for third place, His Highness Prince Leopold of Bavaria hands over the trophy to Paul di Resta. Of course, Prince Leopold, a former DTM and European Touring Car Championship racer, but these days a BMW ambassador and a BMW rep, hands over a trophy to a Mercedes driver. The drivers then together on the top step of the podium. Eduardo Mortara, after a great job, and now the celebrations will begin on the podium. The Henkeltrocken there to be sprayed, and a modest Mortara in the background as he jumps down and then gets a soaking for his trouble. But when you've won a race, that champagne doesn't matter too much, does it? So, Eduardo Mortara with the champagne in his eyes, as it says on his hat. First place in race 1 of 2 at Spielberg here. The Red Bull Ring has played host to another lively DTM encounter, this new format of qualifying and racing on each day in just a very short, sharp 20-minute session that can really give you a mixed grid if you don't get it hooked up. And we've had some good racing around here, but For Jamie Green, bitter disappointment. For Eduardo Mortara, elation as he takes a race victory. And so, as the celebrations will begin from the teams, let's go back to Verena with Pascal Fairline.
Yes, here I'm with Pascal, soaking wet, but I'm pretty sure very, very happy because you're now the new championship leader and you have a very well-deserved second place, so you must be absolutely excited.
Yeah, definitely. It was a very good race, so I'm really happy. If you take in account that on Friday I couldn't really drive a free practice because I had a problem with the car and I had to stop. And the guys did a perfect job overnight. And no, I was a bit worried because if you don't drive the first free practice, you lose a lot of track time, you lose a lot of time to set up the car, but still the car was really good today and the guys did a perfect job overnight. And yeah, they really deserve this position.
And now you're also a championship leader, so that must motivate you even more.
I'm always motivated.
Perfect answer. Well, best of luck for tomorrow and enjoy today. So now let's see if we can grab Edo. He's right here, so I'm just gonna grab Edo. Sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to congratulate you. Fantastic job you did there. And first victory this season, second time on the podium. How's it feel? Are you happy? I bet you are.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very happy. I mean, it was a tough day today, and I was hoping for a good start, and I've been struggling with it, you know, since the beginning of the weekend. I cannot press with my thumb my end brake. So when I released it, I released it like I could, and it was like a very bad start. I lost the place with Jamie, and then I mean, unfortunately for him, and fortunately for me, I overtake him because he had a problem, and then I know that the car was good, and I could make a gap and go for the win.
And now you're also back in the championship leadership battle, or championship battle. That's good as well.
Yeah, I mean, before coming here, actually, I said that if I wanted to have, you know, to go for the championship, you know, a good result was necessary. And today, luckily, we have it. So we are back, and I hope that we are going to be back, you know, till the end.
All right, then. Thank you very much, Edo. And that's it from me. That's it from today. Now enjoy the highlights and see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.